Half-Blood shirt. First of all, I got that Camp Half-Blood shirt back in 6th grade. It still fits, by the way, so I think that's a good thing. But the bad thing is that, like, it's faded away really badly. So instead, I am putting on support for the Lightning Thief musical, which, by the way, is on Broadway, so... So for today's video, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I've been wanting to do this video kind of for a while, or a series like this where I talk about my experiences with my favorite books. I'm doing this video for Percy Jackson's birthday because Percy is turning 17. Rick Riordan has said that he doesn't want Percy growing up, so he's going to keep him at the age of 17. And since I thought I was at the age of 17 and kind of entering my senior year and kind of my last, like, child, not adult year, I just felt like I needed to do something to, like, give my respects. That sounds like Percy Jackson died. I'm not giving Rick Riordan any ideas. He already killed off Jason Grace, which I still haven't read, by the way. I thought I'd give my thanks to Percy Jackson and explain to you all the story of how I got into the books, what the books did for me, and just kind of that stuff in general. Before I get into this video, I wanted to give a disclaimer that I will get emotional during this. I was practicing what the things I would say in this video and how I'd organize it, and I cried during that. So be ready for that. And also there is some personal things in here. There's nothing too personal, a little bit personal that I haven't been on my channel. So the first introduction I had to Percy Jackson was the movie. I know, you can all boo now. Go right ahead. A friend brought over her copy of Percy Jackson and said, let's watch this movie. And I said, okay. So, like, I fell asleep during the movie. And then I think my mom and I both fell asleep maybe. And she's like, let's just finish that movie. And then we watched it the whole way through a second time. And that's what I remember, I guess. So that should have been sign one that the movie sucks. So I watched that movie back probably in like early 2nd grade before I got into my Harry Potter movie obsession. So if you need a little backstory on where 2nd grade Julia was with reading I wasn't really into it. I mean, I read books. Like my favorite series when I was a kid was Magic Tree House, and those Pixie Hollow series where basically each book was based off a fairy, and most of those fairies are not in the Tinkerbell movies, which still pisses me off to this day. Who cares about Silver Mist? Rainy is the queen. Don't get me started. Rainy gave up her wings to be with the mer people. Holy shit, I just realized that that book is basically a retelling of The Little Mermaid. The only time I would really read would be in school. And most of the time in school, the books we read, I just wasn't interested in. I wasn't really into reading. And in school, we would be divided into GT kids and normal kids. Most of my friends were in GT and I'm like, why am I not in GT? Am I not smart, or I'm not good enough for them? It was kind of like that was the start of how my school started at a young age to divide us as students and make people think they're not good enough, which we'll come back into the story later. So the time is now 5th grade. And if you know me in real life and you were in 5th grade with my school, I'm sure you remember RIPs. It's not RIP. It's IRP. Oh my god. It's IRP, Julia, not RIP. Rest in peace. So IRP basically was independent reading project. So every quarter of the school year, because there's 4 quarters in the school year if you didn't know, basically every quarter we would read a book in a genre that we chose and then do a project on it and a book report sort of thing. So it was it was like the beginning of 4th quarter. In my 5th grade year, I had read the How to Train Your Dragon books. I loved them and I binged them, but I didn't really have much of a love for reading at that point in time. Like, I still loved reading the How to Train Your Dragon, but like nothing really clicked yet. When we got to the final IRP project, every time you did a genre in your IRP project, you checked it off and you couldn't do a genre in that. So the genres I had last, I just wasn't really into. I was like, nonfiction? No. You don't want to read nonfiction. Julia only reads fantasy. But basically, the last kind of one that I was kind of interested in was mythology. And then I remembered Julia back in my head of 2nd grade thinking, you know, wasn't that movie like about Greek mythology based off a book? Let me read that for it. So I went to my school library and I got Percy Jackson off the shelf. And it wasn't like when Indiana Jones picks up the Holy Grail. It wasn't like that. It didn't feel like that yet. It wasn't until I opened the book and I started reading it that I had this wind, this gust of wind, and like this love of reading just started. I don't know how to explain it. It feels like magic to me to this day. I just opened up a page and I'm just so interested in it. Like, I never had read a book like this where, like, the books we read for school most of the time were either in third person, or if they were in first person, there wasn't much personality to it. It was just like, I did this, I did that, blah, 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 blah. Most of the characters were just boring and plain, which we'll be getting to. When Percy starts talking, the first line is, look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. It gets you instantly in. I don't know how you can not read that first sentence and be like, this is boring. Like, that's so intriguing, that one first line, because you're like, what's a half-blood, and why does this kid not want to be one? What Rick Riordan's writing style kind of is that Percy's talking, it's written like how Percy talks. And a lot of the books that I personally really love, they're written that sort of way, like The Knife That Never Letting Go and The Hate You Give, but like, it's half that, and I never had seen it like that before. So I started reading Percy Jackson, and I don't know how, but I was just so intrigued with this story about this kid. Like, I didn't know why at the time. I didn't know how. Looking back on it, I do know the reasons why I was so intrigued with the Percy Jackson series. I'll get into that later. But besides Percy Jackson teaching me some things, what Percy Jackson also introduced me to was you guys. BookTube, basically. Back in my school, either you didn't read Percy Jackson, you didn't know it existed, at least in my 5th grade year, or you read it when you were too young, you don't remember anything, and that's just it. So I had no one to talk about Percy Jackson with. I was like, I just was like, oh my god, I need to talk about this with someone, and everyone's like, I haven't read it, I don't remember it. I'm like, who am I supposed to talk to and like listen to about this series? 20 whatever year it was, YouTube. I was doing doll videos, which we're not going to be discussing at the moment. I watched Smosh, I watched Minecraft videos, you know, the usual 5th grader. And I searched up on my YouTube search engine, Percy Jackson book reviews. And you know who popped up? Christine Riccio from Poland Bananas Books. And her review of The Lightning Thief was there. And I was like, okay. And I clicked it, and then I realized that this is a whole thing. People talk about books on the internet for a living. I was like, this is so intriguing. Like, I just loved how animated she was. She was just so intrigued. There were so many details that she remembered, which I still wish I could. And I would just remember every time I finished a book in the Percy Jackson series, I'd finger snap right after, I would go on YouTube and search up Christine's video. Like, I would always watch her book reviews. I think I caught up to that series that summer. The summer before 6th grade, I had finished Mark of Athena and I was ready for House of Hades. But like, Percy Jackson didn't just introduce me to BookTube. It taught me a lot of things that I personally wasn't feeling at the moment, but as the years passed, those things kind of got more and more into my head, and Percy was a statement of how everything my school was saying that I wasn't good enough, or they didn't think I was smart enough. Percy was just being like, nope, that's wrong. How I connected to Percy was probably kind of the same thing with a lot of kids. At that moment in time when I was reading books for school, most of the characters in the stories were just perfect specimens, like just perfect human beings. Like, they could do no wrong. They looked great. They did everything right that their parents said. And I just never connected with that because, of course, I was a kid that was considered not perfect in my school system. So, you know, I just always felt like the outsider. I've always felt, even to this day, I always feel like the side character in my own story. Sarcastic side character that, like, makes the jokes and helps the main character. I feel like the ducky. We just gotta admit it. I'm the ducky in my own story. If you didn't get that, it's Pretty in Pink. But when Percy came about, he was this character that not only was sarcastic in a way, which I had never read from a book, by the way. He basically considered himself a troubled kid. He felt like he wasn't good enough, and basically everyone kept telling him he was a mistake. Like, I know Harry Potter grew up in an abusive household, but once he got to the Wizarding World, everyone almost respected him, besides Malfoy's, but like, everyone, every time everyone meets Harry Potter, they bow down to him. And just like, Harry was like more like, he got, like, everything he did was right. That's why I kind of didn't feel the same thing of Harry Potter with Percy Jackson. Like, I still love Harry Potter. I think it's great world building and stuff like that. But compared to Percy Jackson, I just felt like Percy was more of a fleshed out character. Sorry, not sorry. But Percy for me with Harry Potter, he was the boy who lived, but people loved the boy who lived. With Percy, he's the son of Poseidon. He's the son of the big three, but everyone sees him as a mistake because the big three weren't supposed to have children after Thalia. So Percy didn't feel like he was good enough. He never got the grades that he wanted, but he just never felt like he could fit in and was good enough. And I just felt like that as a kid because I never always felt like I was good enough. And I just related to that so much because I had never seen a character like that, and just to see a kid like that, like Percy and I, we don't look alike. I'm a girl, he's a guy. He has black hair, I have brown hair. I have hazel eyes, he has green eyes. Like, all the kids I read weren't like that, and Percy was. Percy showed me that even if he did have all those things, and in his mind he wasn't considered good enough, he was the hero. The choices that he made, even if he wasn't the best skilled or he wasn't the most smartest, everything that he wanted, what he wanted to do, what he wanted to save, who he wanted to fight to save the world, he could still do with all of those traits he already had. He didn't change whatsoever. He didn't read more books to make himself smarter. He was himself, and he still achieved the goal of being a hero. He still saved New York, saved the world from the Titans. And just seeing that as a kid, I told you I'm gonna cry during this video. Don't make fun of me. This is why I cried at Good Kid. Oh, jeez. Just seeing that as a kid, just who didn't feel like I could belong or I wasn't good enough, just seeing that proved that there's no such thing as being good enough. There is no such thing as being perfect. Hannah Montana should have prepared me, but she didn't. Percy proved that no one is perfect. But that doesn't matter because it matters what you believe in and what you want to do. You care about your family, if you care about people getting hurt, that's the factor. And if you want to save people, that's what matters. It doesn't matter if you have the smartest grade, if you're the smartest person in your class. It doesn't matter if you're the most skilled at all. It matters what you believe. And I progress. Oh my god, my makeup is like... So, Percy really did that for me, and he still does that to this day. Sometimes, like, even though Percy and I relate to each other a lot, I feel like Percy also changed me as a person. Like, I didn't even know the term of sarcasm when I first read Percy Jackson, and I think there's actually a study where it proves that the more you read of a character, the more you become that character. So, like, once I started using sarcasm, I use it a lot now, and it's now one of my hugest traits. Like, back then, when I started using sarcasm, people would literally question if I was kidding or not. And then I don't know why I'm saying this out on camera, but I drool in my sleep now because of Percy Jackson. Or not, like, just every night, every morning I wake up and there's drool. I really blame Percy Jackson for that. So, Percy changed me physically and mentally, basically. So, I still give in to all the toxic stereotypes in my school, but I'm more comfortable with it now that I could see that Percy could still be who he was, and he was a good hero because he was a good person. Like, Percy Jackson was really ahead of its time because in most stories, Percy would be the side character. In most stories, the main character would not be the sarcastic character that has all this kind of baggage. Like, all the kids in the Percy Jackson series all have their own problems, and I just love seeing that because everyone has different problems, but we all come together just to, like, help each other, and I think that's a really good message to have for kids. And I just think Rick Riordan, what he did was very life-changing to a lot of kids, especially. We're back to it, guys. We're back to it. So I don't know if he's ever going to see this video, but personally, I'd like to thank Rick Riordan for helping me through some. And I just remember watching Good Kid from Lightning Thief Musical when I saw it live and sobbing, not just because Chris McCarroll, is that his name? I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. Just not only was his performance perfect for Percy, and I just loved seeing that, it was just showing me what Percy was going through was what, even to this day, like, even as a 5th grader, even to this day, I'm still dealing with it, but I saw that someone else was going through the same thing. I don't know how to end this video because this is just my story time with Percy Jackson. I mean, no one is gonna be perfect. No one is this perfect art piece. Everyone has problems, everyone has their insecurities, and I just felt like Percy Jackson represented that in a way for me that helped me and is still helping me get through it. You have to be what you believe in, what you want to be. You be you. You believe in yourself, even if you feel like that you don't belong or you don't feel good enough. You are good enough. Believe in yourself. If there's values that you have, go for them. If you have goals for yourself, go for them. Don't think about other people and how they view you. You go for what you want to go for and do it. So, thank you for watching this video. Hope you like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below in your own Percy Jackson sob story. Happy birthday, Percy. I'm sorry that it's really sad, this video, but thank you. Don't know what else to say. Bye.